Thanks very much for staying with us. Time now for Eye on Africa with me, Georgia Cavan-Smith. Tonight, the bodies of victims of a deadly raid in a guest house in the Kenyan border area of Mandera are flown back to the capital. The bloodshed's blamed on Al-Shabaab and comes as an AU base in Somalia is also attacked by the militants. The first person to be found guilty in France in connection to the 1994 genocide in Rwanda returns to court to appeal against his conviction. Pascal Simbikangwa was sentenced to a quarter of a decade for his complicity in crimes against humanity. And life through a Lagos lens. The city's contemporary photography festival is beginning and is playing host to some of the continent's most talented creatives for a month. Exhibitions, workshops and installations create a community spirit for an international celebration of African arts. But first, at least a dozen people were killed by Somali militants in the Kenyan border area of Mandera on Tuesday. The bodies of 11 of those who died were flown to Nairobi just hours after they'd lost their lives in the deadly raid. Al-Shabaab fighters claimed responsibility for the attack on the Bishaaro guest house, claiming that they were deliberately targeting Christians. The extremists have repeatedly attacked Kenya in revenge for sending troops over into Somalia to help battle Al-Shabaab's insurgency. Our Julia Steers brings us more from Nairobi.
We know that the militants used explosives to gain entry and to attack the guest house. We know that there are injuries still coming in, but there are 12 reported deaths, 10 of whom were reportedly students who were visiting the area as part of a visiting theater troupe. The group said that they were targeting non-Muslims, as they often do in attacks on Kenyan soil. And this is the second attack in the same county just this month. Several weeks ago, 6 people were killed in another guest house in Mandera town. It's a town that sits just on a very porous border with Somalia, which allows the militants easy access into Kenya.
Julia, it's a second attack on Mandera this month. We also saw several attacks blamed on Al-Shabaab carried out in Somalia on Tuesday on an AU base, another in Mogadishu. It seems like the militants are ramping up violence.
Exactly. With the attacks today and also the recent reoccupation of several towns in Somalia by Al-Shabaab, we see the group both gaining territory and then, of course, much desired publicity. They're proving that they're capable of attacking both military and soft targets in Somalia as well as in Kenya. And it comes at a really critical time for the region. It's the first attempt at democracy in Somalia in several decades. And amid election delays, international and Somali officials have vowed to go through with a parliamentary election process and a presidential selection process between now and November 30th. The parliamentary elections got underway just 2 days ago, and we've seen with these attacks that Al-Shabaab is already making good on a promise to wreak havoc on the election.
Julia Steers there for us in Nairobi. In other news, the operators of a train that derailed and killed at least 79 people in Cameroon say that it was going unusually quickly when the accident happened last week. The death toll is expected to rise, and the scale of the deadly incidents fed into growing frustration with the country's president.
Near the town of Iseka, rescue teams are still looking for victims. Many Cameroonians were waiting to hear from French conglomerate Bolloré. It owns train operator Camrail. On Tuesday, the group finally spoke and said the train was going too quickly.
The speed at which the train arrived at the station is clearly linked to the derailment. There was an authorized number of coaches.
A few hours before the crash, a bridge had collapsed on the main road between Yaoundé and Douala. As a result, hundreds of people decided to take the train and several coaches were added. Too many, according to some witnesses. They also say the authorities are underestimating the number of victims, an allegation denied by the communications minister.
We have lost 76 people, including a baby, and 599 people were injured, among which 231 today have been discharged from the hospital.
The opposition is skeptical and wants an independent investigation into the train crash.
As all the Cameroonian, I cannot believe to that statistic, only because we can remind that this government, since many years now, use liar to manage the country. You can observe that at the beginning of that drama. The Minister of Transport come on the air and said that there was no accident.
President Paul Biya, who's been in power for more than 3 decades, only returned to Cameroon on Sunday after having spent time abroad for more than 30 days.
The first person to be found guilty in France in connection to the 1994 genocide in Rwanda returned to court on Tuesday to appeal his 25-year sentence. 2 years ago, Pascal Simbikangwa was sentenced for his complicity in crimes against humanity.
Arriving at court in northeast Paris on Tuesday to appeal his conviction. In 2014, Pascal Simbikangwa was found guilty of genocide and complicity in crimes against humanity and sentenced to 25 years in prison. The former Presidential Guard member, who has been wheelchair-bound since a car crash in the 1980s, has always denied the charges. His defence claimed the process has been unfair from the start.
We've been refused access to a file that they have on our client for the duration of the trial. It's big, 21 volumes. He's in prison in a wheelchair. We have to defend a file that we don't have access to. It's appalling. Some of the methods used are doing nothing but creating difficulties for the defence.
Simbikangwa is accused of arming the Hutu militia and organising roadblocks where the militia murdered many of their mainly Tutsi victims. In total, around 800,000 people were killed in just over 3 months in 1994. In France, appeals in a jury trial like this require the case to be fully reheard.
In spite of everything, we're entering this trial with optimism. We hope that not only will he be convicted again, but also that he'll be given a sterner sentence.
Around 50 witnesses will testify. Some, currently in prison in Rwanda, will do so via video link. The trial is expected to last until early December.
Life through a Lagos lens. The city's contemporary photography festival has begun and is playing host to some of the continent's most talented creatives. Organisers say that for the next month, it's all about creating community and educating enthusiasts not only on the craft, but also the history behind the images.
The newly opened African Artists Foundation is the focal point of this year's edition of Lagos Photo. Photographers from over 30 countries are exhibiting at various locations in Lagos. The founder of the photo festival travels far and wide in search of new African talent.
One of the things that we are very keen on doing over the next few years is creating a stronger bond between West and East Africa in a lot of our work. I went out to, very, very fortunate to be invited to Nairobi to do a workshop teaching young curators and working with them. And for me, it was the most revelatory process that I've been through over the last 3 years, I can think.
There are photographers from a myriad of genres exhibiting their works around Lagos over the next month. Self-portraiture is used by this photographer to challenge cultural expectations around marriage.
There's some families that don't really care if you're married or not. In some families, it's like you just have to get married as a female. And especially when you're already clocked at a certain age, it's like the expectation, everyone is looking at you like, okay, well, you're next in line, what is going on? Why is there no man around now? Or why you're not getting married? Or why are you not married? It's a question every day you get to hear as a female here in Nigeria.
For the first time this year, Lagos Photo has an exhibition in Makoko, an informal settlement on the shores of Lagos Lagoon. Makoko has inspired a generation of award-winning photojournalists. Everyday life here inspires their work. Photography has gone from being the preserve of the wealthy in recent years to becoming a tool for anyone with talent and an eye for life in Nigeria.
Well, that's it for Eye in Africa. Thanks very much for joining us. Please do so again.